conference last spring or fall to Omaha, and it was the school library journal Stronger Together. And they talked about several large cities who had been doing collaboration between public and school libraries. So their focus was a little bit different than what we probably can handle. But I've been trying to figure out ways to implement it with our smaller schools in our rural area. So I was hoping to open up a conversation today and see where it may lead and see how we can help each other. One of the really interesting ones was Nashville, and the mayor of the city saw that the schools were struggling, and he just decided that the city was going to help the school libraries. And so he just brought in the directors of the libraries and said, what are we going to do? And they decided their focus would be easy access to the best educational resources in their libraries and the databases they had. They went ahead, and it was a large undertaking with so many libraries, public and school, but they gave the kids their student IDs would be part of their Mary Beth is over my shoulder here. I've lost my their library card, their student ID would be their library card for any school public library. And materials could be delivered to the school libraries, and purchasing power. They could, just like we do a CKLS, the schools could purchase their materials through the public library and get a bigger discount. Some other cities, their emphasis was on the pre-K and helping daycares and preschools and providing not only materials but programming. One brave group decided they were going to go out into the middle schools, and they kind of had a captive audience during lunch. So they would either do book talks, or they would just bring a variety of books to check out because the school libraries didn't have a real good selection. So, you know, why would we want to collaborate? What's in it for me? So what common ground do we have? Anybody? Sherry's in an interesting position because she is the public and school library. Well, we serve the same population, right? The public library serves the kids that are in the schools. So there's your common ground. I think it would be up to each community to decide what is their common mission. You don't want to go into it with, or even parents or administrators thinking the public library is going to replace the school library or vice versa. That's not the purpose at all. you have a really good opportunity if you work together to create a really strong impact in those students' lives, and to instill that love of reading, so that they'll be library users all their life. Those are good combinations. But partnerships will only work as if you're both strong contributors. So you've got to start a conversation. Has anybody tried that?
Christie, I was going to say that Jan said, my students want to continue reading the same series. I lend those series to the public libraries during the summer.
Yes, the summer slide and the summer reading programs, maybe even the teachers providing reading lists that you could share with a public librarian would be really good ways to continue that. You want to improve your services to all your users, like the larger schools, improving your collection. If the kids like a series and the school doesn't have the budget to continue it, at least even if the public librarian doesn't have the funding either, they've got the resources with CKLS and ILL and share it. I was kind of hoping Amy, she thought she might join us from upstairs at Great Bend, and she's been doing some programming with the school district. They went back to her. We lose it again? Oh, okay. Okay. All right, so they've got a program going on. The schools came to her, and they have a reading initiative. And so this past week and this week, she's had family night for the families of each different school came a different night, and she's had various activities that go along with their reading initiative. So maybe if she pops in here, she can tell us about that. My first year here, I came across an article. It was what the public librarian wishes the school librarian knew, and on the flip side, what the school librarian wishes the public librarian knew. And you'd think it's pretty obvious, and this isn't the case in a lot of smaller libraries, but a lot of times public facilities are open after school hours. And if you were collaborating, some carryover could come from the school. There's Miss Amy. We were just talking about the school coming to you for their reading initiative and seeing what you guys might do together, Amy. Do you want to tell us about that?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Well, every year they have a readers initiative. One district, one books is basically what it used to be. And so we had been in contact with the principal that's in charge of that to come and meet with them to try to see what the library could do with the community and with the school. And so we partnered up, and we have opened up the library to each elementary school for one night, and they come in and we have activities planned for them, not only for them and the families and the teachers to get to know the library and the community that surrounds us. So it's a step in the door for us that will help us later to collaborate with different projects. And we've heard good things from the school board members that have been stopping in and the teachers.
So you've had good success then.
We also had a book and breakfast that we did for the elementary schools, because the main thing is they wanted this book to be read. And so we know that sometimes there are families that cannot read the book. And so we had a book and breakfast for 3 Saturday mornings where the families came in. We served a light breakfast and read the book out loud. And we had really good participation with that. And with instead of having all 5 library or elementary schools come at one time, we decided to have a different night for each school. So that way we could accommodate as many people as possible and have it still be comfortable.
Amy, I had a question in the chat. Is this for 1 week or 1 month or continuous throughout the year?
This one was for 1 month. And so we've done 5 different nights in this month. However, we're hoping that this partnership will expand and we will work with them throughout the year in different possibilities. We do work with the schools also with their Kansas reading roadmaps. The kids are working on their reading and they come in after school or to the schools after school. But then they have a family life night and they have been holding those here at the library. And so the teacher has an area where the families get together and they eat dinner together. And then the kids split up and the kids come to the librarians and the parents stay with the teacher. And so we do activities with them while they have a little thing. And then the families come up and we do a family activity all together. And that's usually twice a year.
You've been building this for a couple of years now, right?
Yes.
How much staff do you need when you've got these groups coming in?
It depends on what you're doing. For our book and breakfast, we had 44 people come, and we had 2 staff members. For the nights where we've invited the entire school, we've had probably 6 to 7. We had some volunteers because of what we did. We had a scavenger hunt where they had to go find different parts of the library and then perform a literacy task at each station. But I didn't have each station manned. I had a lot of passive areas. So the people that were there working were mostly there to help and to guide families where they might need, or to help show off the things that we have in the library. I had people here that if people had questions about Libby or any of those things, that they could promote that.
Good deal.
So,
do you guys have any more questions for Miss Amy? Then I'm going to skip back over here to Amy, maybe you can help us out with these too. What the public librarian, which is the school librarian, knew. Another good reason for the kids to know about the public library is that they're going to have Wi-Fi and computers for the kids that don't have technology in their homes. You know, and you're not in competition with the school library at all, are you? With these, you're working in coordination with them.
Absolutely. The main librarian for the elementary schools here in Great Bend comes and works with us, is on the team that puts all this together.
That's great. So, like for the junior high and high school that are researching, the public libraries are going to be gold mines of resources. And has your youth, has anybody had your middle school, high school public librarians working with your school libraries? Offering any? Not yet. Okay.
Christie,
Yes,
our kiddos come out down during the day, so we have that advantage.
that's right. They can come
And so
down
they do.
anytime they want.
Right, they can come down anytime, well, anytime the teachers allow, you know, but also we have teachers who say, okay, we're going to be down, and let us know ahead of time, and then we can plan for them and know what to expect. So it works out real well. But I also use our library, the public part, for our grade school kiddos. Sometimes there's not enough room in our library and there's more room in the big area here. So we can make arrangements for things to happen. Or if we have a display here that I want the kiddos to see or interact with, we bring them down for that. It is 4 blocks away, which isn't terrible, but for the K1, that is quite a walk. So I have to make sure that, you know, the weather is cooperative for things like that.
Good. So are your teachers, did they let you know when research projects are coming up?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, and then we also use ILL to make sure that we have, I mean, some of them request specific books for their kiddos, and then some of them let the kiddos decide which books, you know, they're needing, or we help to research which books would be best for their needs.
Mm-hmm.
And Chrissy, I have a comment here from Jan from Clifton Clyde. It says, that sounds great. Something to think about. We use books and DVDs from the public, but research is through the kslc.org.
Yes, yes. And, you know, hopefully both librarians know what's available through the Kansas State Library catalog and their databases. A lot of times teachers don't know it's out there, so it's a good way to introduce those when they've got a research project coming up. Kansas with their new, I can't even think what the right word is. It's through the State Department of Education. One of the things that's really being emphasized is pre-K and kindergarten readiness. And public libraries have been doing programming all along for that. So to team up with maybe a school librarian or a teacher and introduce them to some of the programs you already have would be terrific. Some places have kits, some places have backpacks themed with a theme, and so you know they can be really useful to those daycares and preschools. The regional library systems have a lot of kits as well, and I know several school librarians have tapped into those, so it's always a good thing to check with them too. The career readiness is also another emphasis of the State Department of Education. And so they have career pathways, and we know there's lots of resources in the public library and on our state library website that have to do with career readiness. Sharing professional development opportunities. I know a lot of smaller librarians out at school libraries that only have one librarian. You know, what if you would think about contacting the school libraries and public libraries in your county and get together and have some professional development. It could be through CKLS. You know, you could just know that there's a really good video out there that you guys could watch together and talk about. I know a lot of people feel really isolated. So working together that way would be really great. By working together, we can reach our parents and caregivers and get information, like just a communication network. If you even just started there, this is what I have going on at my library. Will you make sure the information gets out to your patrons and vice versa? You know, can I send this home so you can send it home with your kids and parents will know this is going on in the public library? That is just a really good place to start. Any comments along that lines? Anybody tried anything?
I have in the chat from Margie, I saw a presentation at KLA where the public library brought books into schools to showcase additions to collections. Some kids cannot get to the library, and the library came ready to check out books to the kids.
Yeah, we saw that too at PLA. There were a couple of really good workshops on that. We know that public libraries can fill the gaps of weekends and school breaks, and keep the kids reading or have activities. Probably the librarian wouldn't be able, the school library wouldn't be able to help, but maybe there would be high school kids that could help with that programming in the smaller libraries that don't have big staff. So what about the school librarian? What do they wish a public librarian would know? In this article, it was, please understand it might take us a while to get back to you. Everything has to be approved by a building principal. They may have classes one right after the other till noon, have a quick lunch, and then they're, you know, maybe having to seat the class, or have a class coming in to research. Contact them by mail, email, and phone is the best way to keep the lines of communication open. And realize a lot of times your school librarian is in the dark just like you. You've got to train those teachers to let you know ahead of time that something's coming up so that you can get the kind of resources they need. And sometimes that doesn't happen. Many times that doesn't happen. And when they put on their things can change without notice in schools, it was more talking about the larger world of education, where you've got all the different programs that come down from federal and national, and they always come around with are you having trouble hearing me still? You know, it sounds, oh.
Try that now.
Okay. Can I turn the sound off here? Yes. Okay. Can you hear me now? That's better.
You on this side, and then you'll be on microphone there, but you're still over there.
Okay. So the school librarians can translate all that education speak. There you go. Thank you. That's all right.
Nice and you.
And in smaller districts, you know, they may just be in charge of their own collection development and teaming up with a public librarian. You can know what's in each collection, and you can save each other money by, you know, I've got most of these, let me continue with this series, and you can start on this new one, or compare your nonfiction and where holes need to be filled. It will be advantageous to both groups. And again, I think one of the main ways you can start is just to advocate for each other. You're in it together, and you know, share what's going on in the public library with your students. Get the word out. Public librarian, come to the school and share and introduce yourself, and so they get to know you. The kids get to know you. Anything else a school librarian might wish a public librarian knows?
I also have a comment from Jan. There is no reason for me to buy a series when the public library has it. I am in both public libraries often. I should invite the public librarian to view the school systems collection as well.
That's a good idea. That's a really good idea. Anybody else? Well, to me, the obvious place to start is just communication. Coming up with an assignment alert from your teachers. They get it to the school librarian, they get it to the public librarian, and then you start working together.
Christie,
yes.
do you have, and maybe I've gotten it in the past, but I don't remember where I put it, but do you have a list of the state libraries databases and the different things that they offer that teachers would be able to utilize?
Yes, I do. I can get that for you.
Is it teacher friendly that they would be able to just look at it and utilize it, or will it take training?
Some of them will take training. It you know, the science and the social studies are more complicated than, you know, some of the others.
Right.
But I'll write this down and I'll send it your way, and maybe we can simplify it or break it up into chunks. That would be easier.
And Christy, I can add that if you have a simple link or several, I can put that in the archive too, so that everybody that views the video can see it too.
Okay.
And then I have a question for Amy too. You have so much going on right now. How many people do you have working on your different things that you have on the evenings? I know I have people coming from over here, over there, because of all of your great things that you have going on. How many people do you have involved in those things, and what can I steal from you?
Most of the things that we do in the evenings, there's 2 of us, maybe 3 if my high schooler is available. And sometimes, you know, I'll try to get high school volunteers if it's something that I really need a big group for. As a matter of fact, some people have been telling me that I have too much going on. So,
do you feel that way?
Most of it, you know, story times and chapter chats. The chapter chats is just really offering a snack, and I read out loud to the kids. So, you know, it's just whoever is in the area at the time that can read a few chapters. And then our book club doesn't take much staff at all either. So, but when we have big events, it usually takes 2 to 3 of us, for sure.
Okay, I'm going to just get on the webpage and start borrowing.
Okay, that's good. I always borrow from other libraries too. That's where we get some of our great ideas.
That's what we do.
That's right.
Anybody else have some successful things they could share about where you start? Jan, have your public librarians, you said they haven't been to your school to see the collections or book talks or anything like that? I was really intrigued with the, you have a captive audience. You know, if a public librarian really wants to promote something, you know, working something out where they do go visit the school during lunch or a break or something would really give you a captive audience to promote what's going on at your library, or check out to kids who can't get to your library.
So Jan did answer your question. She says, no, the public librarians do not come to the schools, but they do share books each summer with the libraries. And our public libraries are not open enough hours. So there's that challenge as well.
Yes, yes, it would be. Well, I'll tell you, I'm getting lots of ideas for how we can all work together. And I want to put the challenge out there that that we do start talking to our counterparts, either in your city and or county, in your area. Try getting together. We did this with the gatherings the first year I was here. And I'd like to see us do that again. And I will probably be putting out some notes, and maybe try it this summer when teachers, school librarians are out of school, and see if, you know, we can meet at someone's library, just get to know each other and what you envision seeing how your school and your public libraries can work.
And there's a comment in the chat also. I love the idea of opening up our activities to see if high school kiddos would volunteer. And I think that can work whether you're, you know, really well as a public library to help make that bridge with both, is seeing what kids need some volunteer time and which ones maybe your school librarian could suggest would be good for volunteering as well.
Yeah. And I talked about this a little bit in a workshop I presented at KLA, and I had a public librarian speak up and say, this feels an awful lot like a one-way street. She felt like the school libraries could benefit a lot from the public libraries. She just wasn't sure what a public library could gain, you know, in the partnership. And, you know, like you said, having a school librarian tell you about some good kids that might help you in your programming, that's a good thing.
There is the question of, where do I start? So where do you start to find those high school kids that are needing some place to volunteer? And then also another comment is, I love the idea of getting all the librarians together in one place. And I think that'll be a benefit both sides. And while it might seem more obvious to be benefiting one more than the other, I think in the end, that partnership, you know, is going to help both, because not only can they work together and say, oh, we're learning this in school, so then the public library does something, but then the public library says, we're looking for this. How can you help us with this or something? I think there's ways that the partnership will work that we haven't even seen yet.
I think it can very well be a two-way street. It's how we go into it and approach it. You know, we both want to benefit from this partnership. So how can we help each other, and start there with the conversation. If as a public librarian, I can't see, you know, how this partnership works, it's just you just have to have a conversation and talk about it, and be positive about what what you can bring to the table.
Christy, if I might pop in with the volunteer situation. When I first started, I did contact the National Honor Society that Margie just mentioned in the chat. And I let that teacher know that we were looking for volunteers, and if they wanted to volunteer, they could come and help with different things. There are many other clubs too that at the school need service hours. Also, 4-Hers, there is a reading project. And if you find a 4-Her in the reading project, they need to give service to a library. So that would be a really great thing. And also, you could probably help them with their project at the same time.
And I was also thinking, you know, there's always projects going on at school, and you can display them at school, but you have a limited audience. So there's always that opportunity to show artwork or a project as artwork in a public library. I know Great Bend does that with the high school art class, I think once a year, maybe more. So I think there's opportunities along those lines as well. And a lot of the comments right now are talking about seniors need those community service hours, and a lot of the clubs have community service requirements too.
And I would say look at some of your junior volunteers as well, especially in the summer. I use 5th grade on up, because the 5th and 6th graders, they get a ride to the library and they stay here. And they're not working yet usually, and they're not, you know, obviously you have to get the responsible ones, but we had 5 or 6 last year. We called them junior volunteers, and they did a tremendous job. And we've been trying to get them in through the year as well to help with some of the things that they can do.
I know, was it last spring, Amy, you had volunteers come and help you create some of your art projects for summer reading.
Oh yeah, our school does a community service day. And so they all leave the school and go out in the community, and we always get a group. And that group prepared all of our crafts, half of our decorations. They did all the prep work in a day. It was fantastic. So yeah, I would definitely highly encourage, if you had a group that wanted to help with that, get them.
Any other comments out there?
There's several in the chat. So Stuco, K's, FBLA, FCCLA all require service hours along with National Honor Society. And then another comment says, volunteering is important when applying for scholarships. Contact the school counselors with your opportunities. There's, you know, I think there's also the opportunity for, if there's a club that's doing some kind of fundraiser, the easiest public library help there is you can help post the sign or whatever, but maybe you could also, if they need a spot, you know, the library parking lot could help or something like that too.
And it doesn't always have to be high school children either. We have a volunteer place on our website that people can sign up to volunteer. Your friends group can volunteer, you know, you have different people. You just need to really watch when you have them volunteer with children, that you've kind of done a check and make sure that, you know, it's appropriate that they can work with children. But lots of times you'll have ladies that could come in and volunteer to do things that aren't too strenuous, or gentlemen for that matter. But sometimes there's community clubs out there that want to participate. And like the Pilot Club wants to be involved in the library. So, you know, trying to find something for them to do. And sometimes it might be a program that they want to assist with.
Well, that was my starter to get us thinking about working together with our public or school counterparts. And, you know, I encourage you to invite them over, have a light supper and talk about what you have in common and how you can help each other. If you want CKLS to help, we're happy to co-host or bring programming or just help you in any way.
Christie, there is a comment from Jan. Our rural students need to understand how valuable and different a large public library is, and I don't know how to educate them. I grew up in a large library, and I know what they are missing. And I think that's something really valuable, too, is that you know, a small library can only do so much, and there are things that a bigger library can do. So if there's a way to make that kind of connection too, even if you're in a rural school district, if there's a way to, I don't know how you do it, but we can brainstorm it and see if there's a way to show them all the opportunities that libraries provide.
You know, Blue Valley up by Kansas City used to host a conference for, it was one day, it was for school, public, college, any kind of librarian you could think of. And that's was a really good conversation about when the high school kids were coming out of school, and the rural kids and the skills they were lacking because they didn't have access to bigger libraries and better resources. It was a good conversation to have, and so that these college libraries, you know, understood some of them just don't have that opportunity, and they brainstormed, you know, how they could work together to fix that. So that might be something we can do as CKLS, is kind of have a symposium maybe and bring us all together and see what we can do to help kids. Yeah, so Jan, you've got access to the JUCO in Concordia. Maybe you could, you know, see if you could take your seniors there to visit their library and see what is offered. And what maybe she could tell them, these are the skills you need.
Another comment, this is from Sherry. One of our issues is that when we have an activity on a weeknight, the other responsibilities get neglected and then falls back on our day staff. Do I have my night staff fulfill their responsibilities before scheduling the event? But when there's not time for cleanup, how do you get everything done? I think is where Sherry's going with that. Where do you evenly divide responsibilities when you have a big event coming up in the evening and it takes over everything?
Good question. Maybe schedule it so it's a half an hour before closing and they still have some time to finish up. I don't know. Anybody else have a good idea?
Dan says, yes, but these kids need to see and experience a large public library. They need to see it as a resource. And I think that's important too. And, you know, getting those workshops in, or those events and programs in where things get neglected. I don't know, this sounds like a really good discussion topic for when we meet as a group, you know. I don't want to pass the buck here, Sherry, and not answer your question, but you know, I think that there's probably a lot of good ways to mitigate this issue, but I don't have them on the top of my head, and I'm sure that people that are actually working in the trenches, you know, will have some really good ways to cope with that. So hopefully, you know, when this is archived or when we can do our first meeting as a group, I think we can get some really good answers for you.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us. And we'll keep this conversation going.
And Sherry, I don't know if you saw the last chat, but Margie recommends a volunteer corps, and maybe that's where you bring them in, is to be the ones that can help catch up with the slack or whatever, pick up the slack, I think is the phrase I'm looking for. So yeah, I think Christie and I will get together and see what we can do, if we can do a meeting, or if you guys want to host one, we can help be a liaison with that as well. But right now, it's just a good idea, and hopefully Christy and I can flesh that out a little more.
Good deal. Well, happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving.